So today we are going to be discussing the likelihood of just the implications that come behind the Utah Jazz deciding not to trade Lauri Markkanen. Because as much as I was a proponent for not having him traded, there were many analysts and different people in the many edge spaces of Utah Jazz culture that felt as though he should have been traded and believed that we may not end up getting a top 5, top 7 pick this upcoming season as a result of retaining him. Today, we're going to debunk all those myths, in my personal opinion, my logic behind why I feel like we should have kept Lauri Markkanen, and honestly, what I have us looking forward to when this season finally plays out. With that being said, it's your boy Wraith Hoops. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. We do this almost every day. I'm back. The editing is back, finally. And without any further ado, let's go to get into this one. The easiest way to describe Lauri Markkanen is to say he's a star. He is a person that enjoys being with the Utah Jazz in Salt Lake City. He loves being able to raise his family there. He wanted to be there long term. He signed after the first day that he was going to be available to sign for his contract extension that bent him out for another 5 years, maxing out his money just because he didn't want to have to worry about the rumors that would come with it during this regular season. Now, of course, I assume the rumors will come back next offseason, especially dependent on how the draft goes. But outside of that, Lauri Markkanen is a staple of Utah Jazz culture at this current point. Now, with that being said, the most recent NBA Power Rankings that came out at the very beginning of August has a lot of good, useful information to help explain my personal case. And honestly, I like the way things are looking. We know for no uncertain fact that the Jazz are going to be bad this year. There's a lot of rookies. There's like 7 or 8 guys under the age of 20 or at 20. So there's no surprise there when you say the experience just isn't there to help push us forward. Mind you, we were 31-51 because of several ghost injuries and the one random hot streak we had earlier on in the season. So we're going to be worse than we were last year. The biggest loss that we had was Chris Dunn from a leadership standpoint, defensively being the point of attack defender. Things were really important when it comes to having him on the court. They kind of replaced him with Patty Mills most recently with their last signings that they had, which was an interesting take, but I think that this one perhaps could allow him to be more of a Udonis Haslem for us as he was with the Miami Heat. I think that it makes the most sense considering the fact that we let Chris Dunn walk, even though I really didn't want Chris Dunn to walk in the first place because I thought that he provided a lot of ability both as a playing piece and as a leader on that team. Nevertheless, it happened. To put things into context from what we were working with last year, we had a 114.5 offensive rating, which was 18th in the league. Defensively, we were last in the league at 30th with a 119.6. Overall, that net rating, for those that didn't do the math in their head, was a negative 5.1, which is 23rd in the league. And the overall pace was at 100.3, which was 10th in the league. Now, they said the only key addition was Cody Williams. I would say the entire rookie class is a key addition. Kyle Filipowski in the second round, Isaiah Collier coming much later than he was supposed to be available to us. I think that our entire rookie class is key additions. I think at worst, they're going to be rotation pieces on a championship caliber team at the peak of their powers. I believe that 2 of them, maybe all 3 of them, could potentially be starters, if not stars to a certain extent, but at worst, these guys are going to be hanging around the league for their 10 plus seasons, making sure they collect that pension at the end of the line. Putting things into a bigger light, a lot of people are concerned with the fact that Lauri Markkanen playing is going to be too good with the Utah Jazz. He's going to make them a positive team that really just makes things difficult for them to lose games. I don't buy that because we lost a significant number of games with him playing in them. We had a terrible record while he played in games. And then there were also random ghost injuries, as I like to call them, where he was just out with his back or his ankle or his elbow. And similar things happened with Jordan Clarkson and Walker Kessler and just a lot of different guys at different points in the season, to the point where it even happened to, I believe it was John Collins or Colin Sexton, where they missed a couple of games. Mind you, Colin Sexton had been healthy the entire season and had played literally every game until they randomly spawned in an injury on a random Tuesday night. So we're not going to act like we can't just, say a guy's got a sore pectoral muscle, got a sore patellar tendon, might have an ACL sprain. We're going to give him an MRI. He doesn't need it, but we're going to give him an MRI anyways because he said, it kind of hurts, coach. Those sorts of things we can do. Those sorts of things can end up in the injury report, and you can sit those guys out. And if you think you're too competitive a team, those are just simple things you can do. Or you could play them for about 20, 25 minutes a night. Avoid playing them in heavy, stressful, duress, injury-prone situations. Not play them in super tight games. Put the rookies on the floor. Give them the opportunity to really get that burn, because we saw that happen quite a little bit last year. It's completely capable of happening. One concern that is reasonable, though, is a random hot streak. And yes, we have a bunch of young players. Yes, we have a bunch of rookies. Judging by the schedule, I didn't see any particular stint of like 10 to 15 games where I think we can really catch fire and do some serious damage. But you never know. It's the NBA. Basketball's a game of runs, so it's definitely possible that they find themselves in a situation where they win 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 games in a row. And it's like, okay, we got to switch some things up. Yes, you guys are playing great, and at the end of the day, we want you to play great. But the whole point of us being willing to be bad this year is to make sure we are the worst that we will have to be during this stretch of Utah Jazz basketball. Because we want to go ahead and one and done, dip our hand in the pot, grab the star that we want, pull them out, pair him with Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton and company, and then run with it, develop the guys, and keep ascending into greatness. That is the expectation, that is the hope, that is the dream. So when you have a world where you think that's in jeopardy, it's completely understandable to believe that a random hot streak could end up messing up our chances. And there's no guarantees anymore where if you're the worst team in the league, you're going to get the number 1 overall pick. The past 2 years, the Pistons were great at doing that, but they got the 3rd overall pick, I believe, both years. If not, it was 3rd and 5th, but they got moved back a couple slots despite being the worst team conclusively by 1.5 miles. So with that understood, you want to make sure you're down there just enough to make sure your odds allow you to guarantee you're in a low area. And it's not just a Cooper Flag draft. Yes, everybody says capture the flag, capture the flag, capture the flag. I get it, okay? He's supposed to be a really good player. I like what he does on tape. I really like what he's been doing in his Duke scrimmages and practices. Many people feel like it's the Cooper Flag draft, capture the flag, all that good stuff. But the draft is a lot deeper than that, and I plan on doing a little mini series just detailing the top players that I think could be either game changers or at the very least first/second options on a championship caliber team if they reach their peak, in my mind, once they're into the NBA game. With that being said, the top people on my personal list, obviously starting out with Cooper Flag, goes Dylan Harper, Traore, VJ Edgecombe, and then Drake Powell. There are a couple others that I'm kind of teetering on the edge of the list and a couple of names that I just didn't leave on. But by and large, those are some people that I have the most level of intrigue when it comes to. But flipping back over to the specific Utah Jazz side of things, you find that they actually ended up allowing 27.2 transition points per game, which is the second most across 20 seasons of Synergy having tracked it. Now, this is really, really bad because that effectively means that you're not even playing defense at that point. It's not you're getting beat and the rotations just aren't going well if you're in zone and man, people aren't helping properly. Somebody's just a piss poor defender. It means that you're turning the ball over and they're live ball turnovers, or you're getting out rebounded and they're throwing the go ahead pass and you're just not getting back. And that's an ugly sight to see because those are the easiest things to cut down on. Dead ball turnovers will always be better than live ball turnovers. No turnovers is obviously preferable, but one is clearly better than the other. Similarly, being able to attack the glass and win on the offensive glass or hit your shots is always going to be more preferable than allowing a defensive rebound to the other team and a go-ahead outlet pass. Those things are just clearly understood, to put mildly. But nevertheless, it happened. Now, the interesting thing was they were 18-0 when Jordan Clarkson recorded a positive box score plus minus, while they were 4-32 when he didn't. Now, obviously, judging from that sample size of games, 18 is half of 36. So in about a third of the games that Jordan Clarkson played, he had a positive box score plus minus, and he was a very much positive player. Last year, he had one of the worst shooting seasons of his career, and I think that he will shoot better this year. I don't think that he's going to be perfect, but I think he should raise his stock to allow himself to be at least tradable by the trade deadline. I don't know if it will actually happen, but I expect there to be some level of interest, unlike this offseason where nobody was on the phone trying to get him, which kind of sucked because I would like to send him somewhere where he would enjoy playing, play for something meaningful, and at the same time be appreciated. Because to be quite honest, he doesn't really have guaranteed minutes, 2, 3, 4 seasons from now once the young guys really take that next step forward. But an interesting thing that I found was that with Lauri Markkanen on the court, they actually outscored opponents by a decent bit, but the worst part was when he wasn't on the floor, because when he was on the floor, it was a slight positive by a couple points. Off the floor, they were a negative 9.5 points per 100 possessions. Now, of course, this includes games that he didn't play, and this also includes games where he played, 34 minutes, and the other 14 minutes were allocated to a Taylor Hendricks or Bryce Sensabaugh or somebody else on the roster. The issue with that is obviously pretty staggering. Now, the idea is that ideally, if you saw a trade with Lauri Markkanen and you completely cut out the positive that would be him being on the floor, and you just take the negative box score plus minus when everybody else is on the court, they're going from like a 31 win team down to like 15 to 18, maybe 22 at a peak. So you're guaranteeing yourself that you're in that bottom 3 in the league. There's not going to be 3 teams that are that terrible. But from a talent standpoint, you already don't have a significant overhaul of talent. You have Lauri Markkanen, who's a fringe all-star. You have Colin Sexton, who's a very good player. And then you have a bunch of other pieces that were kind of teetering on the edge between being playable and not playable some nights, being really efficient, being really inefficient. There was just a whole lot going on. And then you add extra rookies to the mix, and now things get even more cluttered, more bogged up, and now you have to really go through your rotations a lot harder and try and see what you can get done individually. Beyond that, you also have the consequence of having your likes of Keontae George, Taylor Hendricks, and Bryce Sensabaugh. Now, the interesting thing is the fact that Keontae George, inside of the arc, shot 45.6% from the field, which is the third worst among 161 players with at least 302 point attempts last season. And also you had Taylor Hendricks, who only played 900 minutes, give or take a few, at the NBA level, because most of his time was spent with the SLC Stars, which isn't a bad thing, but it is something to keep in mind when you take into account the fact that he just doesn't seem the most polished. So I believe all in all, yes, the team will be just more competitive with Lauri on the roster. That's a given. Anytime you have a talented player, a player that's a fringe all-star slash all-NBA caliber, an elite shooter on your team, you're going to be a better team. You're going to be more competitive. But when you also have a significant number of young guys that are trying to find their niche role in the league, and yes, Will Hardy's philosophy is no free minutes, but at the same time, these are talented young guys that are going to make mistakes. And I believe that sooner rather than later in the season, they're going to be allowed to make those mistakes early and often. So as a result, you're going to see all different types of Utah Jazz lineups get run, and there's going to be a lot of different opportunities for different guys to have as a result, which will not lead to victories. At the same time, now that we understand that we are supposed to be tanking this year, I have no hopes of us ever being a extremely competitive team. I'm going to be completely looking through the games from a lens of somebody that just wants to see good basketball, wants to see good plays, wants to see people progressing on a game by game, week by week, month by month basis. And I hope that you can stick along with the ride, and with any luck, it will be worth it. Because if it's not, my goodness, guys, we're going to be in for a long one. But I appreciate you if you stuck around this long. It's your boy Ray Hoops. Go and smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, become a member, or drop a donation to help support the content. Let me know your thoughts below in the comment section. And as always, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.